here tonight, and I thank all of you for making time for this important conversation and a debate about an issue that, frankly, in the presidential elections is not being debated. All we're hearing about is yelling, and facts do not matter. So we're really looking forward to a dialogue with all of you, and especially with David as well. I think it's great that the Century Foundation and NYUWagner chose two immigrants to debate this issue, immigrant from the global south and an immigrant from the global north, to debate one of the most important issues in our country. Embracing the undocumented and expanded immigration is good for our country. I unequivocally support this motion for three reasons. One, it's good for the economy. Second, the status quo is untenable. And third, the alternative is too costly and actually undermines our American values.
Immigration is not a question of yes or no. It is a question of more or less. It is a question of who, when, and of what kind. The United States has run an immigration policy of a certain type, one that favors the world's least skilled people, and one that countenances an immigration flow that is more than 50% illegal. That's not the only way to do immigration. Other countries do it differently. Canada does it differently, and Australia does it differently. The United States is at one extreme end, with Sweden, of a spectrum of choices. And my proposal tonight is that what we need is not no immigration, but less, and not a radically different immigration policy, but a somewhat different immigration policy. One that does a better job protecting low-wage Americans from a harsh global economy, and does a better job of exposing highly paid Americans to the bracing winds of competition. American neurosurgeons do not have to worry about the effects of migration on their wages, but Americans with high school diplomas do, and increasingly Americans with 1 or 2 years of college do.
So I completely agree with David that immigration is not binary. It's actually very complicated. And I think we all agree that we need an immigration system that we actually can manage. So first and foremost, and I think this is where David and I don't agree, is we have 11 million people in our country who have U.S. citizen children, who are running small businesses, that are taxpayers. We have to address that issue first and foremost, right? So let's provide legalization. I think the fact that David is suggesting that we have a status quo only is going to benefit employers. I mean, we agree on this. I think the folks who benefit the most from the status quo of an undocumented population are employers who are benefiting from the labor. And in fact, if we really want to address the issue of future undocumented immigration, it's not just about enforcing the immigration laws in the workplace. Actually, it's enforcing the labor laws in the workplace. If employers knew that they were not going to be able to get away with violating minimum wage laws and not paying workers' comp and having workers off the books, etc., that is what creates the incentive for employers, that small group of bad employers who are actually getting an economic advantage over all the other employers that are trying to play by the books.
This claim that a society, a welfare state, needs immigrants in order to sustain its social insurance system, it needs to be examined in some detail. It is often made, it's a claim often made, and it overlooks an essential human fact, which is that immigrants also get old. So it is true that if you look at a 27-year-old childless man, you will find that his net contributions into the social insurance system exceed his net take at that moment. But over that person's, the American social insurance system is massively redistributionist over our life cycle. And because of the generosity of the Medicare program, what we receive in the years after 65, for most of us, greatly exceeds what we pay in.
So means-tested programs. Undocumented immigrants are not eligible for means-tested programs. Over half of the families that David is talking about or referring to, actually it's because their U.S. citizen children are qualified because they are U.S. citizen children. Earned income tax credit, child tax credit, that is not a means-tested program. Earned income tax credit and child tax credit programs basically are programs that because you are working in the United States, you are eligible, and if you have U.S. citizen children who are eligible for this program, then you can apply for the credit. But it's because of the child that makes you eligible for that. The USDA statistics actually show the complete opposite of what David has just talked about.
Just something else that has to be said about this claim that President Obama's been a deporter in chief. That's really a statistic. It's not true, and it's a statistical artifact. What happened before the Obama administration was that apprehensions and returns at the border tended not to be counted. So as part, gearing up for his big immigration initiative, President Obama, one of his first demands was more comprehensive record keeping. Tally everybody, even if they've only been on American soil for 16 minutes, tally everybody. And so when you tally everybody, instead of tallying only the people deported from the interior, you get a much bigger number.
Do you know how much bigger? How
I
many are
I don't have.
at the border?
It is known. I don't happen to know it off the top of my head. What I do know is that that number actually was generally not even counted during previous administrations. People who were apprehended within an hour or two were just sent back, and no one took a note of it. Or at least it didn't go into any official statistic. So it's a complete statistical artifact. It's not true. And in the Obama administration, enforcement in the interior of the United States simply plunged. And part of that was because of the terrible recession, there were fewer people working in the United States in every category, including migrants.
Yes, since 2007, there is a net zero migration of undocumented immigrants coming to the U.S. The other thing that did change, and I think
arguing
this
about
is
nothing in our politics.
absolutely. That's why I said earlier that facts do not seem to matter in this on this issue, especially. The other thing that definitely changed is actually, and this is I think one of the things David was alluding to, is prior to President Obama's administration, people were turned away. They got voluntary departure at the border. Now, people are actually getting final orders of deportation at the border for a deterrence purpose. There's actually more consequences. If you're detained at the border, there's actually a record. You're fingerprinted. That means that in the future, if you try to come lawfully, it actually hinders you from being able to do that.
Is that the wrong policy?
No. That is actually the right policy, and that's actually a big change from previous administrations.
The president has the authority to enforce the laws. If the president of the United States says, look, I've got a limited number of IRS agents, and I'm only going to look at tax claims that are in excess of $2 million, that's a legitimate exercise of prosecutorial discretion, concentrating resources where they'll do the most good. If the president said, I am just not going to enforce the tax laws anymore, I don't believe in taxes, I think taxes are theft, I'm not going to do it. That is not prosecutorial discretion, that is an executive non-compliance with a whole statute and scheme of Congress. So when the president says, I'm not going to enforce immigration laws against anybody, that is not something the president can do. He can enforce them first in what he regards as higher priority cases and later in lower priority cases. He can't just veto a law that was passed by Congress and signed by his predecessors.
He's not saying
he can't
he's
nullify
not
an entire.
You won't continue to deport criminals. That's a pretty
first we have
significant drain on law enforcement.
The president is saying he will not deport criminals. He's saying he will not deport felons. That people who have multiple misdemeanors, including vehicular homicide cases, are not going to be deported. Only felons. We
have to address these issues separately. One is, let's address the fact that we have 11 million people in our country that have deep ties, that have U.S. citizen children. They're not going away. Look, Arizona, Georgia, Alabama, they've tried this through state laws. They tried to crack down through multiple ways. We've sued Arizona, Utah, Indiana, Georgia, South Carolina, and Alabama, and we've settled all of those lawsuits in federal court. They've been found unconstitutional. And the economic cost for those states has been huge. So again, cracking down on undocumented immigrants is not the answer. Legalization is the answer with respect to them. Now, in terms of the
incentives
future,
matter. You legalize 11 million, you will have 11 million more illegals tomorrow because they will see this system. This is the second amnesty. We did one in 1986. You do a second one, there will be a third and a fourth because the message will be clear. Amnesties occur at regular intervals.
the reason we have an undocumented population is because there weren't legal channels for people to come. So unless we both legalize immigrants who are here, undocumented immigrants, and secondly, look at what are our needs, what are the labor market needs, and figure out what is the right number in terms of future legal immigration, otherwise we will repeat the same mistakes of the past. So that's definitely true.
All the things you want to have happen cannot happen in a world of high and continuing migration flows. Capital and labor are substitutable one for another. If you have huge flows of very low-skilled labor, you will not have investment because it will be irrational. When people can hire people to pick grapes very cheaply, they do not substitute grape picking machines that can be operated at a higher level of productivity and pay a higher wage. You are not going to be able to enforce the labor laws you want to see enforced in a situation where so many people who are entering the country are here on conditional legality or worse. And if you have an amnesty today, you will have more illegal immigrants tomorrow.
Immigration laws are being enforced, despite what the rhetoric is, Michael. Guess what? Let me just tell you what is happening in this country. You and I are paying over $18 billion every single year on border and interior enforcement. That is more than every federal law enforcement agency combined. Think about that. That is more than the FBI, the ATF, US Marshals, Secret Service. We are spending more on border and interior enforcement, yet the rhetoric out there is that President Obama is not enforcing the laws. I mean, that is just absurd.
One of the reasons that immigration is popular with people in the top third of the income distribution is it has genuinely made a lot of goods and services a lot cheaper. That's one of the benefits. That's true. It just has costs, and so my purpose here tonight is to direct your attention to the costs. The benefits, people like the people in this room are going to be very familiar with. The costs are going to be largely invisible to us.
Family reunification is a core American value. I think the other thing, and I think when we think about immigration policy, really making sure that we're keeping that in mind, definitely the costs and benefits are important, and I continue to believe, and the majority of Americans believe, that the benefits outweigh the costs. And finally, and this is not just for tonight's vote, but frankly for November's vote, we really need to ensure, we're living some dangerous times when fear is partially what's fueling the immigration debate, and we need to make sure that we don't repeat the same mistakes we've made throughout history. Some of the most darkest moments in our civil rights history has been when we have targeted people because of their ethnic backgrounds, such as Japanese internment. To think that we may end up there, depending on the November elections, that we may round up and detain millions of people in our country is a dangerous time.